suppose we are in a very challenging time to say the least, especially when you walk downtown and it's or any city, because I know there's a couple of people on from elsewhere outside of Cork. What we're looking at really is something that none of us have ever experienced. So do we have all the answers? We definitely don't. But what I will say is that I suppose right now what we can do is adapt and be as flexible as we possibly can be. So looking at, I suppose, our current situation, what we're needing to do really is consider, right, what do we have to do? And communication is a massive part of that. And you can even see that through how the government have been reacting by daily, twice daily, 3 times daily updates. And regardless of political interest or apathy, whichever, at least we know we are being informed in some way, and there is no complaint there. So what I want to do today is show you that, I suppose, communication to not just your potential audience or clients, but also your employees is hugely important. So what we want to also do is, when we talk about your audience or your client, and I suppose we need to look at that as a very important element, that who is that person, or what are they looking for from us as individual business owners. So we're going to tear through it. Now bear in mind that there's some of these slides have quite a lot of text on them. I'm not going to be reading everything for you. I'm going to talk it through as loosely as possible, so that we can offer a little bit of scope in terms of answering questions, etc. But also, I'm going to send this out to all participants as well, so you'll have a copy of it. There's also a worksheet in this presentation that I was able to get from the Harvard Business School, the 5 Ps of planning. So I'll be able to send this on, so don't worry if you're not getting everything. What you can do if you're sharing online by Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or any other place, hashtag Eventi, or hashtag Eventi Effect, or hashtag COVID recovery. So we're going to tear through, and so on to the next one. So just starting with the doom and gloom, so then we can move on to everything that is much better. So this is ultimately a global view that I was able to seek. Now, it is from an American media company, as there has been no studies like this in Ireland as of yet. So, and it is looking at a more global, I suppose, oversight of the situation currently. And you can see right from advertising down to travel, insurance, energy, that there are no new conversion rates coming through in terms of new buyers. In actual fact, there's reductions because people are cancelling everything, or people are reducing their spends in a lot of various different areas. So we won't worry about the decline, because I think we're all in it together, and that's a really important phrase that we all have to keep reminding ourselves, that this isn't, it's not just me. I'm not the only one suffering, right? And it's much more a community-based endeavour right now, and that's why I'm really encouraging, which we're moving on to now, about how we can help each other as well. So just to point out, though, that you can obviously see that food, healthcare, pharma and media is on the up, and for obvious reasons, of course. I mean, we can see that the queues and etc., deliveries, all of that has actually really on the up with many of the various outlets in terms of food, pharma, etc. So what we're going to do is look at what you could be doing or can be doing or maybe have done already. So these are just some various tips that we could be looking at in terms of a general business outlook, okay? So we're going to be talking about crisis communications plan. Now this is a phrase that gets trotted out quite a lot. And I suppose what I don't want to do today is have a load of buzzwords. I want to break this down so that no matter what level you are in terms of your understanding of marketing or PR, that you can actually adapt to I suppose, utilizing a lot of the tips that are in this presentation. So in terms of a crisis communications plan, we want to encourage that you are sensitive to the situation. As I said, it is global. It's a community situation, but also that you're flexible. So if you make a decision that, oh, this is how I'm doing it, don't be afraid to make a change that is required to, I suppose, keep that going. Now, we're moving on to identifying operational essentials. Now, why we're talking about that is, okay, what do we really need to be able to actually continue on, okay? So, for instance, for myself, in terms of any other costs that we didn't need for Eventi, I was able to remove anything we didn't need. But for instance, I needed to keep my subscription with Zoom, because obviously that was about to become very important to me. It was also going to be important that I continued my subscriptions for design work, website subscriptions, etc. But that's because of the areas that I work in. Obviously, in terms of any event work that I would have been doing, those costs, we were able to push them out and be able to reduce the overall expenditure of the company. So if we're evaluating staffing and overall business strategies, again, this has been a really difficult part. Whether or not you know every single detail of each of your employees, what's really important here is that, okay, we have staff. Do we have money? Have I taken advantage of the availability of the scheme in terms of the government with the employers? So we need to kind of look at how our staff are fitting into this, but not forgetting that if you had no option but to furlough your staff, the new buzzword seemingly, furlough, if you had to let them go, what I'd say to you now is, and coming back to that crisis communications plan, your communications with the staff that you've let go is now more important than ever. Because what you want to be able to do is you're preparing consistently for recovery. And you want those staff members, even if they're on the pandemic emergency fund, you want them to know that in recovery, there may and hopefully will be a job there for you. So keep that idea of, be positive in how you're evaluating your staff needs. That even if you're having to say, okay, you're going to have to go on the emergency fund, I want to be able to keep you in the loop, so I'm going to keep contacting you. So make sure that communication is there, as well as just evaluating, because I think sometimes, and you know, not to be stereotypical, but some of the larger companies, you know, they don't know every single individual person. So the HR department might have to make a very difficult decision in letting go a lot. What I would say is, if you're a line manager or the owner, go and have a look, check, because what is going to happen is we're going to need our teams on the ground ready to go in terms of recovery. So please be aware of that internal communication. So important. Now, what I want to talk about here is the remote work policies. Welcome to my living room, my office. Yes, remote working. Is it possible? Yes, it is for a lot of people. For some, of course, it's not. But in terms of staff that could continue to generate income for you, I would suggest that this is a very important aspect. And again, it's about that flexibility and adapting to the situation. Now, if we're understanding your dependency, please know where you are dependent and what you really need, and reach out and talk and communicate. This is all about communications. What we want to do is make sure that no one is left out on their own. And that's why I'm doing this today. And I suppose you can look at, I mean, we're doing this today in conjunction with Cork Business Association and the local enterprise office. They're two massive resource companies that, you know, are there to help. And I think what's really important here is that none of us are frightened to ask for help. Pick up the phone, send an email, just say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay, you know, and actually go and look for that help. Now, what I would say is the last one here, this is a difficult one for some people, because some people are just like, oh, a business plan, I don't know, I leave that to my accountant. But what I would say is you can take business plan templates off the website and, you know, just Google business plan template. And what I would say is do the most basic. Look at it from your perspective and look at where you want to be and where you are right now, and be able to look at the economic and social fallout of COVID, but in relation to your own situation. So that I would just say that, look, business plans can be very disheartening to sit down and try and do. And look, there are people out there, I could help. There's no hassle. Ask a question, send an email. There's no problem with that. So that's pretty much what I was talking about in terms of what maybe you have done all of that, or maybe you should do it, or maybe you could do it. Now, this is the 5Ps worksheet even, and this is from the Harvard Business School. So the terminology around this is specific to them. So what I would say is there is some very interesting ideas here. And once I send you the presentation, you'll be able to copy this out and use it as a template yourself, or indeed come up with your own plan or your own worksheet that works for you and uses the, I suppose, narrative that is important to you as a business. So we're moving on from that. Now, opportunities. Who knew there was positivity during this global pandemic? There are. And one is, and I've said it already, we're in this together. Help each other. Supporting everybody, not just ourselves, not just our own employees, but we can look at our contemporaries, we can look at our colleagues in our industry, and we can help just share others' content, retweet. What I would also say is here's an opportunity as well that if you are still in business, that you're offering incentives or discounts who may be struggling financially. Now, I'm not saying, do a 50% discount or like have a big flash sale. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that maybe be a little bit more creative with how you're considering the people that you are supporting. And one of the bigger things would be here for any big purchases that you could introduce payment plans through direct debits or customer accounts. Now, obviously, that may be a little bit tricky if you don't know your customer that well, but for people who, I suppose, have a regular contact or engagement with their customer, I think that would be really important to do. So now, opportunity 2, online advertising. Oh, the lovely, wonderful thing that is online advertising. Now, it can be a minefield, it can be too much hassle for people, but what I will say right now is that the cost of it is so cheap. And that's because all of the smaller businesses, they're not advertising, they're not readying themselves. So what is happening is the larger businesses who generally drive up the cost, we're not actually having that much competition. And you can see that even from Netflix. They had to reduce their streaming quality to accommodate all of their users across the world. So that'll tell you how much more people are spending online. So that is a really, really important element. Just to be aware that, look, maybe you haven't done online advertising before. Maybe you've never done Facebook advertising or Google AdWords or Google Ad Roll. What I would say is have a look. Again, ask the question, even if after this presentation, there is no hassle. Send Eventi an email and I'll happily point you in the right direction. Also, look at Enterprise Ireland's online retail fund. This is a really important fund, and I would encourage anyone who is not readily available online, whether or not you choose to be selling online, but if you don't have a presence online, I think this is something that you maybe should be looking at. And again, there's lots of help and support there, and Paul in the local enterprise office, it would be a huge asset there and being able to point you in the right direction. I am seeing that there's a question, Joseph Cotter. Sinead, on the subject of staffing, will there be a need for staff to be retrained in a manner when we go back to our new normality? What I would say is that it's a really good question. And I'm going to bring it back to, again, your communications plan and that idea of flexibility and adaptability. We are, and as you say, a new normality, Joseph. What we're looking at is having to look at everything in a different way. So in that idea, your staff are going to have to look at it in a different way, and that is probably going to include retraining. That doesn't mean you're changing the world. It doesn't mean you're changing the narrative of your business. But it could mean you're changing the story you tell your customers or how you tell your customer your story. And that could be down to, let's see, in the restaurant industry, for instance, that maybe you have prepackaged cutlery and napkins, and that the staff member knows that they have to be prepackaged and they're not going to be handling them. Maybe it means that staff need to be aware that there is now going to be a sanitizing station in the toilet. Maybe in a dress shop, that there will be a sanitizing station in the dressing room facility. Or is there no dressing room facility anymore due to the spread? So there are things that, when you say retraining, I think that's quite a scary word, because it kind of implies a lot of cost. Yes, I think there'll be a lot of time resource spent on retraining, or I suppose helping staff to adapt. But I think what's most important here is that we're sticking true to our own stories, our own company ethos, and then just being a little bit flexible in how that's presented out to your audience. Joseph, if that answers your question, otherwise you can pop another question back in. And I'm going to move on to the next one. So opportunity 3, time to reevaluate. And again, that word adapt, okay? And this is so important. Okay, we all have a little bit more time. I have to admit, a lot of that time has been spent in pajamas, but look, am I alone? I don't think I am. So in another sense, I've also maybe been in pajamas a lot, but I've been using it to my advantage, because I've been looking at how I can increase productivity from my side, what I can diversify my skill set into. Now that's different for me because I'm in the event industry. So sadly, that pretty much means a lot of my clients, we're all in a bit of a waiting game at the moment as to, okay, when will the restrictions be lifted and how can we move on? So for me particularly, it was quite important to be able to say, okay, these are my clients, these are their needs. Now, how can I fulfill those needs and be able to actually still run out, I suppose, some level of a service? Whereas if you're in a kind of a product area that you're selling a product, I suppose you can look at how you can diversify with that. Maybe you've sold, I don't know, quite a lot of toilet roll in the past, but you never sold hand sanitizer. Maybe it's the time to start, that's a very simple example, but you can see that if there's a way that you can slightly diversify maybe your stock offering, your service provision, that this is the time that you can adapt. So what I would say is that you can now evaluate as well who that customer is, right? And I'm going to talk about the customer quite a lot. I often refer to them as well as audience members, but that's from working in theatre for numerous years. So who is your ideal customer? What do they want? What demographic do they belong to? What is their spending power? Now, I'm going to talk as well here, and I'm going to just sit on this one for a little bit longer, because the idea of having an ideal customer in your head, it can kind of seem a bit, I don't know, far off, hippy dippy. And maybe that's what I am, but I know that this works for customers and clients of mine. So if we say that me as a entrepreneur and I sell earphones, okay? So who's my ideal customer, right? Who do I know is going to be wanting those earphones that I'm selling? Okay, I think he's going to be a he, for one. I think he's going to be in his late teens to maybe mid-30s. He's going to have a nice career, or at least disposable income of some level. He may be a student, but he's going to have maybe availability through a part-time job. He's going to be interested in music. He's going to be interested in online. And the idea of a demographic, okay, I've just described demographics there in terms of age, social demographic, education, etc. But what if we looked at that a little bit further and said psychographic? And that's kind of about more what a person or a customer would like from something. Okay, so if I start saying, right, if I call my ideal customer Joe, let's say Joe, he's mad about earphones, he's mad about music, he's actually a musician as well. So now I'm kind of going, okay, my ideal customer, he's a musician, he loves music, he's always online, he has disposable income. So that psychographic tells me that Joe isn't just somebody who listens to music on the radio. Joe wants to make a statement with his earphones. He wants to walk down the street and let them be seen. He wants to do live streaming on Facebook. As we've seen, we're inundated with artists sharing their incredible creative skills, which is a really beautiful aspect of this lockdown. But can you see where I'm going with this? That if you just take, and it can be as easy as this, as spitballing, maybe with your partner, maybe with a kid, maybe with a buddy that you figured you may as well have a bottle of wine over a Zoom chat with, ask them, who do you think my ideal customer is? And come up with that lovely idea of, okay, now I have Joe, he's 26, he's a musician, he's always online. His favorite is Facebook because he's doing live streaming, but he's also on Instagram, but only uses the stories. So now that we're starting to build a profile, we can actually start pushing our product or service directly to that person. And remember that, yes, of course, we'd love everybody to be our client, our customer, our audience member. You can't. There's no way that's possible. Think about the idea of, okay, you can throw a drop of food colouring in a glass of water and it will colour the glass of water. Throw it in the ocean. There's absolutely no difference. It doesn't make a difference. So rather than pushing it out to a wide, massive everybody, forget it. Let's reduce it down to who our ideal customer is. And that ideal customer is replicated through quite a large stream in terms of psychographics or demographics in our society. So straight away, we're now after pinpointing a very good audience here. Following our spitballing of an audience member, which is now, let's move on to a SWOT analysis. Okay, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, what I would say is do that as a current one. So continue to actually do this for now, your COVID-19 analysis. That's what you want to look at. So what are our threats? And some of those threats could be, my part-time employees are gone. So we want to, and again, I'm bringing this back, internal communication, guys, it's so important. So ensure that those strengths of, well, actually, I have a really incredible story and I have a really good service or product. So that's your strength. My weakness is, okay, the industry is shot. It's gone. It's dead. But opportunity, it's coming back. It's just coming back in a different way. And we have our, as Joseph had said earlier, our new normality. So we need to consider that. That's an opportunity. Don't take it as doom and gloom completely. Okay, so we're also looking, if we have the time, guys, let's have a look at our operations, our platforms, our processes, and maybe consider some long-term strategic planning. Now, look, I get in the here and now, this is terrifying. This is, oh my God, I don't have a business. I have no money coming in. I get that. But what about if we just take a moment to say, we are going to get out of this. It mightn't be tomorrow. It definitely won't be tomorrow. We know it's not going to be tomorrow. But in the sense of maybe it's early 2021, right? Maybe it's late 2021. Maybe it's late 2020. Maybe it's September. We don't know, okay? And this is really important to be aware. None of us know. Not for sure, okay? So, but what I want to say is, in terms of a long-term strategic plan, what if it was possible that you diversified your business so much, regardless of COVID? Imagine you got an idea and you put it into action now, which is part of a plan for 5 years' time. We have the time, guys. And I know, like, I have a lot of teacher friends and God love them. They're busier than they've ever been. I would never now say I may as well be a teacher because God, they're under severe pressure, one-on-ones constantly with students, etc. But it's, what I will say is that this is important now to, I suppose, consider the wider. I kind of got a bit lost there because I saw Trevor Ryan had put in a little chat there. Sorry. So, but what I would say is that it's, I suppose, important that even if you feel that you are busy worrying, busy reacting, maybe some of that time that you're spending, I suppose, being a little bit at night over that bottle of wine, maybe that's your time. Maybe that's your time to sit down and say, okay, where would I like the company to be in 5 years' time? And that's strategic planning. It doesn't have to be a big fancy PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't have to be anything massive. It can be an idea, and that idea goes on paper, and that idea can be shared with your staff, with your contemporaries, with people that you know, such as someone like Lawrence in Cork Business Association, like Paul in the local enterprise office, someone who can maybe help. And actually you say, okay, I know that all of this is happening right now, but in 5 years' time, I'd really like to be doing this. So maybe consider that. And as I said, it's just writing something on a piece of paper for you. That can happen definitely over a bottle of wine. I know I get loads of ideas over a bottle of wine. So we'll move on to the idea of adapting your marketing strategy. And now, again, considering short-term reactionary marketing or medium, potentially reactionary, but long-term goals of the company. Again, something, let's go beyond what's happening now. Let's consider the idea of, I suppose, hope, really. I mean, that's all you can say. What I will say is embrace new sales channels if at all possible. Okay, so when you consider your marketing strategy, and I mentioned earlier about the idea of online advertising or on, ad roll, Google AdWords, Facebook advertising, Twitter advertising, etc. Maybe we haven't been looking at every avenue. Maybe we haven't been looking at every platform. So I'd like you to consider that maybe now is the time to start building a new audience in LinkedIn or in Instagram. And look, if you don't know how to use it, you'll find out. Ask a question. Email me. I have no problem. There are people out there that are willing to help. And I know maybe not everybody. Okay, fair enough. There's a lot of assholes in the world. But, I'm here. I'm willing to help. So please do. I really would encourage everybody. Ask a question. There's no problem for asking for help. Okay? So Chris Communications, guys. Sorry, the chat buttons and all of this is they're all over my screen. Right, so what we are looking at is now we're going to look at being an individual company, okay, an individual business, because obviously this is where we are, I suppose, although I'm looking at this as a cross-industry generic situation, and I am trying to suggest certain individual little pieces, so very happy to answer any questions and spitball ideas with you. Apologies for that phrase, should really not use it. What we're looking at here is that each of you need to be looking at your media channels. We've already said this, that you should be maybe having, because of that extra time, that you're going out and looking at maybe other opportunities, other channels. Other ideas would be maybe, okay, how are we communicating with our audience, right? And again, apologies for the word audience, but it's just how I tend to refer to my clients. As we, Shakespeare did say that all players, we're all just players on the stage, that is the world, kind of a thing. So now I have mentioned, and I will continue to mention, about communicating with your staff. And I cannot pressurize that. And I mean pressurize. Please do this. Talk to your staff. Even if you've had to leave them go, talk to them constantly. What I will say also is your clientele or your audience, it now is more important than ever to be continuously communicating. And guys, even if you're not working, even if you're not out there selling, even if you're not ready, do it anyway. And what I mean by that is, who's a really, really good example of this is the Farm Gate. I think it's Rebecca, I think, is on Facebook, I think. And I always love, and this is throughout the year, this isn't just talking about during a crisis, but I love that she shares other things, that she, wants to have a conversation. But it's always from the perspective of Farmgate. It's always from that very clear voice. One of my own clients, the Monforts, that's who distracted me earlier when he sent me a lovely little note. But Trevor, he decided to adapt his communication with his clients by actually putting all of his classes, dance classes, musical theatre classes, for 1,800 plus students online for free. Now, you might think, oh Jesus, why? He's mental. But he had a term that he had to fulfill by contract, technically. I mean, it's not a legal contract, but, the students had signed up. But what he wanted to do was make sure that they felt loved, attended to, engaged with by the Montfort family, which is a really important aspect of his company. Now, I've worked with Trevor for a very long time in marketing and PR and sales. And the one thing about the story that we've often said is about the Montfort family and how it's been going for so long. So I want you to just consider, okay, what's your family? Okay, and where your staff and your clients fit into that. And I want you to look at the idea of having that voice consistently talking, consistently engaging. If for no other reason, then we've all heard of the term algorithms. And by God, they're a pain in the ass. And they are. And if you're not engaging right now with your clients or your staff or your general audience, guys, algorithms are doing their best to just remove you from people's feeds so that in the recovery, you're not going to be there anymore. Now, that sounds terrifying, okay? But look, we've all put a lot of work into our social media. I tend to put more effort into my clients' social media. But you know, that's just because of the work that I'm in. But what I will say this, don't leave the bots win, okay? Those algorithms are there for very good reason. But what I want to say is, even if you've nothing to say, if you share a picture of a cat doing cat-like things, pushing your laptop off the desk, you know, share it. Share that this is what it looks like to have Joe Blogs working from home. Do you know what I mean? You're bringing them in. You're bringing them into your family, okay? And again, that is a huge, huge part of your story. And as I said, welcome to my living room. Welcome to my dog. Guys, she's head of positivity of Eventi. These are small things. They're tiny little quirks, okay? What if you're a musician or an artist? Why not? I know, as I said, there's lots of musicians showing us their skill set through Facebook streaming or various different ideas. But what about finding out about you? What about you telling us a little bit about yourself? What about showing through a little vlog, you know, maybe a little bit of who are your heroes? And that can go for not just musicians and artists or actors. That can go for a business person. Who is your hero? Maybe you share content of that hero. Maybe you share a quote. Maybe you share a video link that you found that you loved. Do you know what I mean? So that you're consistent with, remember, your business is your story, it's your narrative, and you're in control of that. And I think it's really important that we keep that alive consistently, whether you're open for business or not, okay? Now also, hashtags, guys. I mean, hashtag, so over it, but still, they're really important. Hashtag shop local. Hashtag Cork is open was an incredible, useful piece there that was brought in through Cork Business Association from Owen Kennedy in, I can't remember his new company name, but it was Owen Digital Update, I think, I don't know, I can't remember. So yeah, shop Cork online. It's a really important tool. So if you are online, guys, and you're selling online, use that hashtag, because we're actually able to retweet it out and build content from that. So Update Digital, thank you. Look at you. My God, my head was like, why? He's saved in my phone as Own Digital, so apologies to Owen. Right, now, also, if you're in constant communication, which you should be doing, you should be also engaging about the facts. Now, guys, do not scaremonger. Do not spread any detail that is not confirmed from a reliable source. And I would say the only reliable source, gov.ie, hse.ie. Please do not scaremonger. Do not idealize your reopening. Do not idealize recovery for everybody. Do not downplay the situation. Do not, be honest, okay? So your story, your narrative has to be authentic. And in that, to say, I don't know the answer to that, guys, to your audience, that's really important as well, okay? I'm just going to have a little look here at some of the questions here. Apologies. What are your thoughts on TikTok for advertising? I'm just so close to 40, I don't know enough about TikTok other than it seems to be a massive crave to kids. So I would ask you, Inez Caramello, I think. Inez, look, who is your audience member? Who are you approaching? I know some of my friends who are in their 40s have downloaded it, but just out of boredom, they're not actually utilizing it. But that's very different. Some of them have teenage kids, so they're actually using it with the kids. So you need to consider, are your audience members including TikTok? It's a relatively new platform, particularly in Ireland. So I'd be cautious about spending too much on a new platform and seeing what is your following like on it first, okay? So maybe consider organic promotion on that first before you commit money to it. I think, holding back on a budget would be quite important right now. Now, Joseph Cotter says, can we over-communicate with our audience, customers or clients? Is there a danger that if we bombard them with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the whole shebang, that they'll just tune out? Guys, I don't think so, because ultimately what's going to happen is obviously, look guys, I'm not saying tweet or Facebook 20 times a day. What I would say is use your insights. Go into your Facebook page, go into insights at the top, have a look at when your posts have traditionally and historically done best, okay? And I mean, that could be 9 o'clock at night. When I was running the Choral Festival, surprisingly, 9 o'clock at night was our key time. But that also had a lot to do with, we had an international audience. So in terms of the timelines, that's where, you have to be considerate of who's your audience. So Joe, what I would say, or Joseph, Joe, if you don't mind, that I think bombarding may be excessive in terms of over 10 a day. But what I would say is maybe just have a look at 2, 3, 4 times a day, guys, with different content, different sharings, different truths, different authentic thoughts. Okay, so I hope that answers that one, Joe. I love that. Now you're Joe to me. Okay, communicating as individual businesses continued are here. And I'm saying it again, guys. Now, I did a short survey, right? This went across restaurants, schools, healthcare, retail, food, media, PR. 55% of staff felt they had not enough information. They were told, oh, we don't have work for you, or we can offer you 3 hours a week, but you're probably better off on the COVID payment. And then that was it. So running back, guys, cannot stress this enough. You got to talk to your staff. And why I'm saying that is, in that survey and also in other conversations that I've had with plenty of both clients and contemporaries, people are really worried that they've lost their part-time staff already, because it's worth far more to them to be on the COVID payment of 350 a week than it was to be doing 3 hours of part-time work. So guys, think about that. When that COVID payment ends, how do you get them back if you weren't talking to them, if you weren't keeping them as part of your family? Okay, so please, I can't stress it enough. Right, now, developing a crisis communications plan. Really simple template here. Business impact is you have one message, one voice. You're establishing authority. You're going to drive that out, whether it's you as the owner or the line manager, or that you have a specific person in charge of your social media, you lucky duck. We got to make sure that one voice, because that authenticity here, that's what's important. People trust that in your story, in your narrative, okay? Your consistent communications again, these are, putting these together, guys, is more about you having the presentation after this so that you have a reference pack as well. Now, sorry, let me have a little look here. In terms of escalation and de-escalation processes, again, we're looking at the proactive planning. We're looking at alignment with the health authorities. Again, it's that communication. Be honest, tell the truth, use the actual truthful resources. Don't be using some hopped up lunatic on Twitter as your source of information, please. And your external outreach, your media strategy, and that's including your customer messaging. Again, your story, your audience member, who is that perfect, beautiful person who spends all their money with you. And of course, your partner and vendor communications. Because obviously we've been talking a lot about your audience, your clients, your staff. Now, suppliers, guys, your partners. Have we been chatting to them? I bet you we've been chatting to them about deferred payments. But have we been talking to them about, okay, what's our new norm? Is there anything we can do better as a partner? So just consider that again. Just keep that communication line open all of the time. A lot of people really do appreciate a hello, how are you? And that's God's honest truth. Simple, guys. But if your supplier hasn't heard from you since maybe you closed your doors, for instance, do you think it would be maybe seen as a good thing that you picked up the phone and said, how are you doing? I think it would. Okay. Strategy, including marketing. Oh God, it's 12:20. I do apologize to Paul and Lawrence who are like, Sinead, stop talking. Right, this is a really quick part. Marketing, PR, and events. During COVID, social media marketing. Again, I'm sending you this, guys. I'll have to compress the file though, so apologies. Social media marketing. Post content social media, all of your channels, maybe your new channels that you've now decided you're going to try. Maybe you're going to try TikTok, and maybe you're going to build an audience, never mind engaging your current targeted audience. Regular voice, regular content, regular engagement, throwback posts, highlighting bustling region as people remember it. Let's not be looking at the empty streets. I know it's fascinating, but guys, remember what it was, remember what it will be, okay? Social media engagements in the age of instant messaging, conversation online, live updates and posts are vital for strengthening. Video, guys, it's incredible, okay? Don't be frightened of it. Seriously, don't be frightened of it. Look, this is not scary. It's just this. Think about it. If I had turned on the attendees' videos, I'd be able to see you now, and there'd be no issue, because I'd be like, oh, there's Noreen in her pajamas. That's no problem. But you know, because it's a real interaction. So videoing, I think, is key here, guys. Or like just general visuals. It's really important. Just keep it open, fun, light, hopeful. Oh God, I'm such a hippie these days. My cold dead heart has been melted, seemingly. Now, digital media interviews. What about interviewing your staff, even if they're not working for you anymore? What about interviewing you? What about interviewing your partner? What about looking at people that you engage with? And you can interview on Zoom, remember? You can just hit the record button. So, and even if you're not subscribed, guys, you're looking at, you can use Zoom for free up to 40 minutes. So you're not going to be doing a 40-minute interview. You could do a 3-minute interview. Oh, very good. Vitaly Maknanov, video marketing can convert 35 to 800% sales if created with the right message to specific audience. Absolutely. I mean, this is about engagement. What can actually build on that? So I would really have a look at maybe considering, okay, how creative can you get? Oh, Joseph again. Joseph, you're great. Leo, Paul, you can tell us a little bit more now. Can you make this happen? There was a making videos with your smartphone done through Leo last year. Oh, maybe we should do that again. I'd be up for it because, you know, why not? Also, and I don't advocate for this because, you know, everybody's like, oh, I've taken up a new language because, you know, COVID. I don't advocate for that. I advocate for being okay in your head and being okay in yourself and not panicking yourself. But if you feel like it, fine, take on a new course. What I've been doing is I've signed up to Yale and Harvard for their online courses, and they're just psychology courses just for myself. But there's loads as well on Udemy of graphic design, video marketing, etc. And I think they were like a tenner a course. And some days they're free. So have a look online and just see. There could be options there for courses for that. Now, online media articles. What I'm thinking is, yay, Cork BO guys. These people all need a lot of content right now, because surprisingly, there's only one thing really in the news at the moment. So don't be frightened to put pen to paper or type it out, probably, in an email and send it, remembering your BCC, to your various media contacts. And if you don't have any media contacts, guys, pick up the paper, look it up online. Who wrote for that? And find out their email. Google it. It's actually really easy. I was calling it Vitality. Sorry, Vitality. Also, Leo continuing business vouchers available to do spend for marketing purposes, even video production. Now, that is a very good point, and Paul can tell us a lot more about that at the end of this. So, and that is where I think we can really look at the digital marketing here as well. And I've mentioned Google AdWords and search engine optimizations. Guys, who has time to do search engine optimization work on your website backend? Not me, but I tell you, it's up to scratch now, because now is the time I've had the time. So do it, or Google how to do it and get the login details from whoever did your website, or do a website. Okay. Now, in addition, AdRoll, well, it's not new, but it's fairly unknown in Ireland. A remarketing tool. I think it is the one to have a look at. And also, guys, it doesn't require you to know how to remarket. And when I say remarket, if someone visits your website and they have a Facebook account, that there is a pixel that will link it up. So that is why, after I've been looking at fabulous boots on ASOS, when I go onto Facebook, I'm suddenly bombarded with ASOS advertising. That's remarketing. So AdRoll is an online strategy, and you're actually appointed people that will look after your account. So it's really good. Oh, Elena Canty says Google Academy is great, and it's a free online course for all things SEO. Excellent piece of advice there, Elena. I really would encourage people just to have a look and see. So that's Google Academy. So excellent. Now, what we're going to look, possible content. I know, guys, we've touched on it a little bit, and we're all like, I don't know what to say. Future plans, throwback posts, guys, discounts, future bookings, gift cards. If you have a Squarespace, did you know that Squarespace is now offering the gift card for free as part of your subscription at the moment until September? So, take advantage of all of that. And if you can't deliver an online system, support your neighbours and colleagues across the sector. That's a very simple thing that you can do. And it keeps you active, and it's supporting people and helping other people. And we've mentioned about business owners and employee interviews. Now, the relaunch. Oh, nope. Be ready. Okay. What we want to consider here is secure necessary capital if required, depending on what your relaunch idea is. Rebuild your dream team. Is that including your staff that you ignored? Now, reclaim your customers. You didn't ignore your customers. You consistently talked to them, like I said. And now they're there and they're waiting for you, and they're dying to give you their money, honestly. Restock your inventory, very important. And does that inventory include any diversified products or services? Cut unnecessary expenses. Yes, guys, we are not going to be with the money. We are going to be sensible, and we're going to have budgets, and we're going to be very careful with how we spend, because it's a recovery and it's a relaunch, and we are bringing ourselves back out there, but we're going to do it very carefully. Now, evaluation of diversified new sales channels, which we've already done in all our time off. We're after identifying new opportunities, new talent. There's a lot of new people out there looking for jobs. So if you ignored all your staff and they're all after telling you to go away, well, there's a whole new market out there. Prime real estate may have been vacated. I think Cork City knows about this. Paul McGuirk, we won't be talking to you about that. Product and service gaps may have arisen in your community. Now, that is an interesting one. And that's, again, where we're looking at, are we able to diversify our stock, our service? Okay, so just a consideration. And remember, guys, this is the first time this has happened. This is the first time that we've had to go through this. Please don't think you're in it alone. We're all in it. But what we have to remember is how do we future-proof ourselves now? Okay, I opened an event company in the year of a global pandemic. Like, lesson learned, go back and be a teacher. Oh wait, no, I said I wouldn't. So I won't. And remember, okay, this can be your opportunity as part of your relaunch as well to, I suppose, give something back a little. The frontline workers, and I'm not talking about just the doctors and the nurses. I'm talking about the cleaners, the street cleaners, the guards, the army, all of the people, and sorry, apologies, people that worked in our food shops, in our grocery departments, like anybody who risked themselves during this pandemic to make sure you had what you needed. So I would consider, how could we repay them? Is there some level of a gift? Is there an add-on, a special offer, a discount package, something that says thank you? And I think that that's a really important, just a small thing that you could actually do as a business owner. Now, last one, prepare for the next crisis. Do not open an events company. Right, now, time to party. Okay, when I say party, I say it with the greatest of hesitation, because guys, we don't know when this is going to be allowed to happen. And I've used a picture from the long table event, and my God, wouldn't it be fabulous to be able to do that again? But what I'm saying is, it's time to party with a difference. I had a birthday recently, and I had a party on Zoom with, I think, 15 or 16 people at it in my living room, which probably wouldn't have actually fit everybody. So technically, I had the biggest birthday I could possibly have had, which is really ridiculous. And, so there's ways that we can adapt and party or celebrate, okay? And now again, that celebration, the word, that's also a bit of a worry. In the bottom paragraph here in italics, I've said about the sensitive balance that needs to be remembered. And why I say that is because, guys, if you're sitting here on your phone or your laptop, you're lucky. If you've lost somebody to COVID, or maybe you're not able anymore, and that's the balance, that's the sensitivity we need to remember as well. And I don't think anybody should dampen their own celebrations or their own survival. But I also don't think those people celebrating their survival should forget those who were lost. Okay, so that it's quite a somber thought, but I do want you to remember, because that heading, time to party, yeah, it's fabulous. But what I want you to do as a company, as a voice, as a public platform that talks to, communicates with their audience, their clientele, their vendors, their partners, their staff, we don't know who's been affected. So I want everybody here to remember that we need to look at that sensitive balance, okay? So yes, have a daytime garden party to reopen your shop. Let's talk to the powers that be in City Council in terms of getting permission for that. Let's set it up. Let's have social distancing if those restrictions aren't lifted. Let's make those changes. Let's adapt and let's be flexible and celebrate survival. What I would suggest, and I was considering an event for later in the year, whereby we might have a couple of, shall we say, reopenings of certain events or festivals, etc., whereby those people that have been lost may be commemorated with a performance in, shall we say, St. Finbarr's, for instance. So, there are certain things that you can actually incorporate in, so that you could actually have somebody at your event sing a song in remembrance for the people that were lost. So I just want you to consider that. Do you know what I mean? That there is a sensitivity there that we need to look at. Now, there. Thank you, Vitaly. Right, so I'm also saying the idea of gatherings, as I've mentioned, we might be introducing social distancing into this, but who cares? As I said, I had a great birthday party online which who knew? But what I will say is, if we were reopening on the street, and we all saw the article in the Examiner during the week about the Princes Street businesses wanting to, to have like street eats pretty much and be able to bring it out. Guys, that's not far off thinking. I mean, and you can see it online if you follow any of that on Twitter. I mean, there's great chatter about it. People are really like, oh my God, actually, that's a great idea. Because consider this, okay? And I remember seeing Joseph, you're a darling, Joe. Thank you so much. Joe has to move on to another meeting, but I'll send that on to you. Anyway, I'll be sending it all on to you. So I will, yes, I was going to talk about a particular cafe. So Richard and Idaho Cafe, they have the small little table and chairs. What we need to look at is how can we get Richard and a lot of other cafes like Elbow Lane, shall I say, on Albert Plunkett Street, how can we get them permission to actually be able to spread out their seating? Because they're two small venues, but we should be able to look at how we can expand that and help the businesses, okay? So we ask the question, go to Leo, go to CBA, get people to lobby on your behalf if you don't know where to start yourself. Thank you, Seamus English. But what I suppose, don't allow what you think to be an obstacle be an obstacle. Look at it first. Look at how there could be a solution to it, okay? I'm very much a solutions-based person, and I suppose it's from years of working in events. So please, if you have any obstacles, throw them at me. I'm very happy to talk about that. And I suppose also the idea of, how can we get creative in integrating social distancing into street parties, food samplings, relaunch parties, okay? So what about the idea of you could very easily incorporate screens into the decor of how something is positioned? You can see all these like perspex screens in shops that are up there now at the moment. But what if that was part of a tray that was being handed around, but it had logos and decals on it and it was pretty? These things don't have to be ugly, scary, full hazmat gear. They can actually be integrated into your look, your logo, your brand, your story. So consider, there aren't that many obstacles in this. We just have to be creative, that's all. Now, if we're recovering with social distancing in place, and these were, oops, sorry, I have to move all of these again. I just kind of came up with some ideas. Feel free to throw in some or have a question about this. One-way systems for entry and exit, I think, would be very useful. You can see that in the English market at the moment. Sanitizing stations on entry and exit, I think, is very important. I would also recommend for restaurants and cafes. I know that can be sometimes difficult depending on how large your toilet facilities are, but a manned station with sanitizing stations. Now that can be incorporated in. Joseph had earlier mentioned about retraining. If you roster your staff and you spread it fairly, and including managers, including owners, then everybody has to do an hour of their day in the toilet manning the sanitizing station. I just think it could be something that would put your customers at ease, that you've taken this quite seriously. Clearly marked recommended distancing between tables, stands, displays, seating, whatever your layout is. That could be for restaurants. That could also be for theatres or venues. Pubs, I think that could work the same, because I do feel that there is quite a level of comparable work here in terms of restaurants and pubs. I do know that in terms of the busy bar, people squeezing in, that's not going to work. However, if you introduced table service, now that it will, yes, I fully understand, it will require more staff. It will reduce productivity in terms of how quick you can pour in a pub setting. But just imagine how important it is to instill confidence in the first month, 2, 3, 4 months when the restrictions are lifted. Instill that confidence in your audience, in your clientele. I hope that's very clear. I mentioned about the screen guards and incorporating them into your decor, and for venues, rows, aisles, they're going to have to be blocked off, okay? But maybe don't again have that, like, you know, awful yellow and black tape like it's a crime scene. It's not a crime scene, guys. It's simply social distancing. So all you have to do is only sell certain seats. So please don't destroy your aesthetic with scary signs. There's no need, okay? What you can do is have your staff police it. That's it. Okay. What I'd say as well, each individual shop, pub, restaurant, venues, a bespoke strategy for each of you to be able to follow, and for your staff to be able to follow. And hopefully then, if you have the strategy written out for you, that you'll be able to actually really avoid any massive retraining, and that your staff are going to be able to roll this out on your behalf. Oh, Colm. Hi, Colm in Costigan's. Thank you. Support your local. We will indeed. Colm will be back. He's definitely going to be there for the big party. Very good. Oh, excellent. Lucas, if you are Lukash, maybe, if you can hold on with that question there, because I am now going to bring in our panelists. Yay!
Happy birthday, Sinead.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Cheers. Thanks very much. Sorry I didn't invite you. Is Lawrence there? Oh God, I hope he's dressed. Or
yes, I
am. Start your video there again, Lawrence, so everybody can see your beautiful smiling face.
I like to see you kept it onto the schedule anyway.
Look, this is quite close. So apologies, attendees, if this was too long for you. They wanted me to be much quicker. I tried. I really tried. Now, what I'd love to look at here is Paul and Lawrence. And this is where I'm kind of just going to literally ask, let's spitball some ideas here. So Lukash had, that question went away. Lukash, any ideas of social distancing for beauty salons? Now that's a very interesting one.
What I would say, Sinead, and Lucas, I suppose the full details aren't out yet as to what will be required. You probably have a fair idea. Look, they're going to have to be 2 meters apart and so on. But until you get more guidance, it's not there yet. I know people are anxious in a lot of, whether it's hairdressing salons or others, for the full guidance, but it's not there yet. But what I think what we will do though is when there's further guidance, it could be next week, it could be a few weeks time, whatever, we can run a webinar on those. For the moment, if you look up the the NSAI website, the Standards Authority, you'll see some general guidance or guidelines that are there for retailers.
Okay.
But then when you get into specific industries like hairdressing and so on, there'll be a bit more. But you kind of have a fair idea in terms of, look, it's going to have to be 2 meters apart, whether people will need masks and so on, gloves and all that.
I suppose, and Lucas, I might be wrong here, but I think maybe you're talking about that when these restrictions are lifted, how you could incorporate social distancing in within the guidelines. And I suppose, again, what I'd be looking at is maybe my own sister's a hairdresser, so, and I know that she's in Waterford, so you know she's had to shut down operations herself. It would be very difficult to cut hair with gloves on. So what I would say, and this is again about more instilling confidence in your clientele base, that you're constantly sanitizing your own hands, sanitizing surfaces, sanitizing all of the products, whether that be, and I know Fifth Avenue, I'm a regular client there, that, you know, they constantly are sterilizing everything in front of you, which is really good. I think that should be upped completely. Like when you're allowed reopen, that actually you're going to overcompensate to show, mainly to instill confidence, because there are going to be people that are worried, and those measures I think you should be putting in your communications plan, so people who are your audience and who are following you already can actually see, Jesus, these guys they're going to look after us all right, we're safe here. Do you have anything else to add on that?
Well, what I would just say is that we have to remember what we're dealing with in terms of our customers is fear. People are afraid, and when people are afraid, they tend to stay where they are. They don't tend to venture out, and that's why, in terms of, and you said it quite well over the course of your discussion, the thing what businesses need to do is build up that sense of trust and confidence to the customer that they're safe. And that's very, very, very important. Now, the difficulty, as we all are very much aware, we don't have those guidelines yet. And that's what businesses want, a little bit of clarity and certainty that they can plan, because all the plans you can make now are fine, but they're really built in sand because you don't have that degree of clarity or certainty that they want. And they're as bespoke to every single industry or sector. So there's a whole range of detail that needs to be put into place by the individual businesses. And that's the work that we're looking at. You mentioned in terms of Princess Street, but what I want to hope to see is Princess Street for every street in Cork, but they're unique to that street and unique to the businesses. And I'll finish on this. And it's not that the city council or government create all the plans, they create the guidelines. I think businesses are innovative and skillful enough in their own knowledge of their own business to form part of that process. And so it's a collaboration of the guidelines plus the innovative and adaptability of business to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Just there's also a comment here from Kieran McCarthy, Councillor Kieran McCarthy from City Council. He says that Cork City Council Executive and the core group are still working on wider street proposals. No proposals are set in stone yet. Traders working together on a street may unlock more space on streets through working with the council and engaging with them. Thanks a million for that, Councillor McCarthy. That's a really good point. And it's hidden in there. Traders working together. Help your neighbours, guys. Where is your business? Who's beside you? Who's below you? Who's above you? Get chatting. Reach out to them. Find out who's there, even if you've never talked to them before, and say, okay, how can we work together? How can we put a proposal together that will allow us get the correct permissions from City Council? Because, lads, the City Council are there to help. And I know that because I've constantly reached out to them with various festivals over the years, with various venues, various clients as well, where I've been able to go in and have a chat. Paul, I mean, you're in there, you're in City Council, but obviously you're, head of enterprise for local enterprise office. But I suppose, I think there's a lot of us and them mentality from retailers and traders, and I think that should be negated now. Lads, we're all in it together, and that includes the council. They've had to go through this as well, and I think if we can all work together, and as I said, ask for help. Talk to Paul in Leo, talk to Lawrence in CBA, and there are people there ready and waiting. And I know from personal experience, Councillor Kieran McCarthy is an absolute asset to our city, as are so many of the councillors there that I know that I've been able to chat to. I've been able to talk to people, to councillors in there when someone had an issue trying to get a grant for go back to college. Do you know what I mean? And I'm very happy to be able to use my contacts within the councillors to be able to do that for people. So, I think now more than ever we are in it together, and I do believe that the council is doing everything they can, and I'm sure Paul can back us up on that.
Yeah, just to re-emphasize that, I suppose if you look over the last few years, the streets and the towns that have worked together have got the most, I suppose, media attention and publicity. The likes of Ballincollig won an Enterprise in Towns Award last year. The Victorian Quarter has obviously got a lot of media attention. Douglas Street, they've all won awards. And it's all, I suppose, the term co-opetition, I suppose, a bit managers speak, but competitors who work together on common interests. And obviously, look, the council is there. They're working with the Princess Street businesses. They've worked with the Victorian Quarter and Douglas Street. So that's always there.
No, absolutely. And I think that is something that now we really all have to be more aware of, that, yes, we have neighbours and we're allowed to talk to each other. It is true. It's physical distancing, not social distancing. We have a couple of questions here coming in from Elena Canty. What about events held in hotels in terms of social distancing? Elena, this is the thing. I mean, until the restrictions are lifted, again, we can't really answer. And I'm being completely honest, as I'm telling all of you to be, to your own clients and suppliers, that in terms of a hotel, they have a lot more resources at their disposal. Sorry, there's a fly or something. I'm not gone crazy. And I think that they would, and are also very, very flexible, and we've seen that. And I've done many events in several of the hotels here in Cork City, to incredible standards. And the staff that are here, we're very lucky in Cork with our hoteliers, because they're very open to adapting for the client. and to be able to facilitate a lot. So in terms of doing an event and incorporating social distancing, I think the word is oyster there. You'll be able to do everything. Now, there is also another question here. Would be any restriction for group gatherings, conferences, live events, etc.? I mean, I'm not the government. I'm not the chief medical officer, so I can't answer that. But what I would definitely say is that once any restrictions are lifted, that, you know, you can adapt. And I mean, live events, there are no restrictions. Or sorry, online events, there are no restrictions. So in terms of adapting, perhaps your live event becomes an online event. For a group gathering, social distancing can be incorporated in with the correct policing or staffing of the event. And you can incorporate it in fun ways. I mean, have various pats made from decals on the floor, etc. Guys, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just would add that we should never underestimate the ability of businesses to be innovative, to create new ways to solve problems. Now, I predicate what I'm saying is, obviously we go back to, we need the guidelines, we need that bit of, you know, that actually rule book in terms of what we need to do. But that's why it's hugely important that businesses are involved in the solution process. You know, based on the guidelines, then you'll have the innovation, then you'll have the businesses who know their business best and how they can get around that. And, you know, hotels have been some of the most innovative ways I've seen in the way they run their business. And I've no doubt they'd step up to the plate. And I think the fear at the start needs to be broken down, that of course we can make this work. And it will be different. And it will be a new world that we'll be trading and working in, and it will be staggered. But I think what you've so well articulated today, Sinead, is that you need to put the plans in now as best you can, waiting as the guidelines come on board. But rather than saying that, you know, oh, we'll wait till August when it's a little bit clearer and I'll just, you know, sit on the watching Netflix for the next 3 months, that's not going to work. And I think it's really interesting that today's discussion is waking people up and say, look, I have a bit of time. I need to make that work for my business. And, you know, as we said, when the guidelines come in, that will probably fit the part of the puzzle. But I finish on this. The guidelines, I think, will only come in on a staggered basis as well. There might be a kind of a general plan, but the more nuanced and the more specific to the sector are going to take a bit of time to roll out. And it's really that kind of uncertainty that's there, that if we can remove some of that, that will be hugely helpful for businesses as they try and plan forward.
Very good. I'm just seeing here as well, there was a question for the panelists. How can you do table service in line with social distancing? Masks on service staff? No, I think it kind of links up to everything we have been saying here about adaptability of businesses. What I'd say, and actually I only saw them in Hurley Centre on Patrick Street yesterday, clear visors that literally stick onto your head. And so it's not a big mask. You can still see your staff smiling. Think about how you want your staff to be perceived by your customer. Okay. So again, we're coming back to, does your customer want to see your staff in full hazmat gear? Will that instill confidence? Or is it enough that they have a simple face mask? Or, and a friend of mine, Jackie Kelleher in Waterford, is JK Makes on Etsy. She made me this, and it is quite a nice face mask. And you could get somebody to make you those face masks, or you have loads of time, guys, take up crafting and make them with your own logo on them. So, you know what I mean? Be as innovative as you can be. No limits here for how you think up creative ideas. So I think that's a big possibility. The clear visors would allow somebody to smile. However, remember Tara, whatever her name is, smiling with your eyes is important for service with customers. So, you know, I think being innovative with that is very important. Now, there's also one here. Oh, thanks, Sandra. Thanks very much. Thanks, Lucas. Where can you buy sanitizing gel for hanging on wall and someone to fit it, etc.? 6 weeks ago you just couldn't, but I presume it's available now and someone to fit. I can look that up for you, Tom. There is no hassle. What I could do, I'm not sure. I'll have a look. I can have a look and I can see. about that. Grant. And Cathy O'Dwyer asks, businesses involved in travel, are there any guidelines re tourism, international conferences, and in my case, hosting trainees from EU countries on internships and language training? Wow. Oh, Colin O'Connor says JC Products are stocking those, Tom. There you go. Thanks, guys. Look, we're all in it together, all helping each other. Guys, anything to say there on guidelines? I know we don't have any specific guidelines released yet about tourism, international conferences, and in my case, hosting trainees. And this is Cathy O'Dwyer. Like if people are coming in as part of the business, I mean, if you have interns coming in, I mean, that's your business. How do we? What would your advice be?
Well, if you're talking about international travel and people coming in, we're further away from that than we are from maybe some of the different sectors opening.
Keep some positivity now, Aaron.
I know, I'm just realistic. We don't know, and a lot of the questions that have come up there today, I can seriously answer them by saying I don't know.
Yeah.
And we won't know until we get that clarity in terms of information. And I could go with a very lovely waffling narrative that would go on for 5 minutes and would exactly say the same. I honestly don't know. Yeah. And I think until we get that degree of information and detail from the, as you said, from the reliable sources, from the department, from government.ie, and then we can build our plans and put all the innovation and the ingenuity into that, because we know it's working to a basis that's agreed as opposed to what we think will happen.
Cathy, what I'd say is, it is very true what Lawrence has said there. I mean, without guidelines having been released on this, and I do think he is probably right that we're a long way off international travel with something like this. But I think, feel free to keep in touch with us at Eventi, and I'm happy to look into that for you. As we get the information, we can share it and maybe spitball some ideas there around how you can adapt to that and how you can look at your business for it. So don't give up hope in that area, because I think it's something that is probably going to need a far more planning than actually anybody else. And now is the time to start that. So consider that when we'll say travel restrictions are lifted, etc., that how you can incorporate any level of, I suppose, care, again, instilling confidence in your clients. So maybe just have a think about that, Cathy, and stay in touch with us. I'm just seeing here, Kolasov says, hi, I parked on the North Main Street car park this morning and the lads aren't wearing masks. It was wonderful to see them smile. Lads, yeah, you're never fully dressed without a smile. Isn't that true? See, we're going to the old Annie the musical there now as well. So what I would say is, this is the thing, we can be innovative. We can use the clear screens. We can, the visors. There are ways around it, guys. We just have to decide, what do your clients want to see and how can you instill confidence at the same time? I think that is very important. I'm also I see Carrick sign. They also do the sanitizing gel and fit them, I think. Barbara Bonato said, Barbara Bonato says Carrick sign do the sanitizing gel stations as well. Tom Murphy. Great. Okay. Now, I think, is that all? Oh, and Cork Hygiene Limited also do that. I love everybody helping each other. So, guys, I do think, there's something very clear here. Everybody is willing to help each other, and I think that is important. Paul, from your perspective, from local enterprise office, are there any of the facilities, we talked about the online retail fund that's available through Enterprise Ireland, is there anything there that you feel you'd like to offer as a support service to people right now?
Yeah, I suppose we have a few. If you're looking at in the online space, for anyone with 9 or less employees, retailer with 9 or less employees, there's a trading online voucher. If people look up localenterprise.ie/Cork City, they'll see the various supports. And then in conjunction with that, we're running
your trading online voucher. What does that entail?
Sorry, that is basically it for a website, or there's a few changes to that. If you have an existing website or a valid voucher before, you can upgrade your website. There has to be a trading element to it. So whether it's a booking system or actually payment system on it. Some 30% of it can go towards the digital marketing spend, which is quite attractive. And a portion can go towards photography as well. And that's up to 2,500 and 90%, depending on whichever is the lower. And then to complement that, we have a few webinars coming up. You can also use it to, if you want to use Shopify or Amazon or eBay. So we have a webinar coming up on the 15th on that. If people it's about an hour and a half by Rowan Cleary. So people can learn the ins and outs of that, because that might be a better option than just putting a website together for people. But it depends. And also we have some digital marketing mentors if people want to engage with us on that. That's free. But basically around the online space. And then we regularly have training on Instagram and Facebook and SEO. They book up quickly, but we're running some more now later in May. People just keep an eye on our website, on our social media.
And there was that earlier comment, I think, from Joe Cotter about the course that you ran last year, Paul, in Leo, about the online, making videos. The
video production, yeah. I talked to Ita. Ita looks after our training. We can put together that. I mean, we're open to, if people have other suggestions, just come back to us. If there's enough people interested, we can roll out various webinars. And as this evolves, we're going to put one together about reconnecting with your people as well at the appropriate time, we ran a retail one the other day. We're running a HR one next Wednesday. So, as we get more information, we can put together the webinars and those and the training.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks a million, Paul, and thanks for the support on this as well. Lawrence, from a Cork Business Association perspective, I know that you've put together a number of asks from the government and local authority as well. I mean, do you want to speak about that, and in terms of how that may affect businesses here?
Well, I suppose the asks are probably on the high line, and they're not going to, deal with the petrol pumping issues that we're talking in essence about this morning. But yes, look, on a very general thing, we're looking for a rates moratorium for a year for impacted businesses. We're looking for government initiatives to underwrite the issue between commercial rents and the landlord, which is going to be a critical issue, and it's ticking away as we speak. We spoke in terms of the VAT rate for hospitality, in terms of 0% for 6 months and then a 9% return immediately after that. And we're also talking about water charges again for hospitality, because it's such a big cost there. So there's some of the basic things that we think need to be put into place, because when businesses come back and try to come back, if there's huge legacy costs, most of them won't make it. And I know we're talking in more broad general terms, but this is where the government needs to borrow, needs to get the resources to underwrite business, because just look at the restaurant, 80 to 100,000 people working in that sector. If they don't go back to work, they're all down back, our vast majorities are back then on being, supported by the government. That's a cost to the exchequer, and we lose the VAT, and we lose the wages, and we lose all the PRSA, what they contribute back. So you're beaten on both sides of the equation. So for the logic of it, I would say the government needs to be supporting business to get back up and running. But in terms of support, obviously the local enterprise and Paul and his team there, fantastic service. We've tried to be as much as we can as an organisation to support business across the board, whether you're a member or not. We're not looking at the membership number. If you come to us with a question, if you have a query, send it into corkbusiness.ie. We're monitoring them 7 days a week. It's not whether it's a Sunday, it doesn't matter. The time doesn't matter, because I work later than most people, and you'll get the email back at 2.
He'll be emailing you at 2:30 in the morning, honestly.
What this morning, and it's been very interesting, people have questions. And you're not stupid if you have a question. Actually, you're very clever, because you're asking the question. Ask the question. We'll try and help wherever we can. And that's what businesses need to do, to work together. And you've mentioned it a lot. And I think this might actually help us in terms of getting together as streets better. Some of them have great examples. Others could probably follow that. But, we are innovative. We are, adaptable. And I think we will get through this. But it is about asking the questions, getting the supports that will help you in terms of your business. And don't be afraid, I don't know. It's not a cry for help. It's actually a very logical say, I don't know, can you help me? Can you tell me what the answer is?
Absolutely. Look, guys, thanks a million. There's one question there left from the Canine Clinic, and it would be remiss of me not to answer it immediately, as the Canine Clinic asks, without favouring anyone, any recommendation with companies or individuals for website or marketing applying for the trading online voucher? Guys, me, Eventi, I'm amazing. I'll happily look at anything that you need for website, any online marketing, any digital marketing, and I can work with Paul very closely in terms of ensuring that you get the full vouchers as well, and making the absolute most of those trading online vouchers, particularly when we look at websites and online marketing and photography, because I do know Alison Miles is online as one of our attendees, and she and Michael O'Sullivan are two incredible photographers. So that would be also a great partnership there. And Vitaly Makino, I really hope I'm saying your name right, I'm so sorry. She says, I do video marketing if required. All about us, video.ie and photography. Great stuff. So, so the Canine Clinic, one-stop shop, just here. You can come here. Now, what I have said as well, anybody that attended this webinar and came online, I'm happy to offer a full 20% discount on any type of work that we're engaged with based on this webinar. So get in touch, ask a question if we can help. And if it's only a question and a bit of advice, that's free, obviously. If you want to engage Eventi Management for your PR, marketing, digital marketing, website design, maintenance, etc., please do, and I'll happily look after you. Also, we're offering payment plans, etc. So don't worry, there's people here and we're all helping each other. Okay, so guys, thank you so much. Paul, Lawrence, thanking ye. You're all wonderful and your questions are great and everybody's brilliant and we're full of hope, and start writing down your ideas there now, guys. Thanks very much. All right, cheers. Fabulous. And I'll end the meeting now. So bye and bye.